Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is Sunday, October 27, 2024. Welcome to meditation class. Let's begin by setting our intentions and making aspirations, as we always do every week, by saying the four immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from the happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. I'm going to start off by reading something by the great Tibetan Buddhist Lama Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. There's a movie about him that's available on YouTube, I believe, or probably Amazon Prime as well, called Brilliant Moon. It's a documentary, and it's very good. And his name was Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. Also, several books that have been published from his teachings that you should check out. But the movie is really inspiring and you should see it. The everyday practice. The everyday practice is simply to develop a complete acceptance and openness to all situations and emotions and to all people, experiencing everything totally without mental reservations and blockages, so that one never withdraws or centralizes into oneself. As this recognition stabilizes, you will discover that the nature of mind is free from delusion. The ultimate nature of mind is primordial awareness, from which thoughts emanate, like light radiating from the sun. Once this nature of mind is recognized, delusion vanishes like clouds dissolving in the sky. The nature of mind free from delusion is without birth, existence, or cessation. In Buddhist terminology, it is called primordial continuous mind, or ever-present simplicity. It's from a book he wrote called The Heart Treasure of the Enlightened Ones. Without mental reservations and blockages. So the practice is to develop a complete an openness and acceptance without mental reservations and blockages. So that's a lot of what we work on in meditation and in our practice, is finding out what these mental reservations and blockages are. Much of it is habitual thought patterns and responses that we've had through our whole life, maybe developed in the last decade, maybe our whole life, maybe from prior lifetimes, and they're blockages, reservations, thought patterns, judgments, ways of seeing that we're probably not even aware of, that have become automatic response, that have become habitual response and outlook, bias, prejudice, likes, dislikes, and they happen on a very automatic level and instantaneous level, almost instantaneous level. And it's how we see the world, really, why meditation is important is that it offers a method to begin to see that. Because before you become free of that, you have to know what it is. You have to see it. You have to see how your whole shtick, engages and how it, informs everything and how you respond. And it's a path and method that requires great honesty with yourself. And that's not easy. But obviously we're all here for a reason, because something's not working, you know? If everything was great and we felt, you know, we had it all figured out, and we were, you know, happy and everything, we'd be fine. We wouldn't be looking for methods to, you know, rid us of our, you know, obscurations and negativities, and enhance positive qualities, you know. So we're here for that reason, and it's going to happen by really getting honest and sorting through deep-rooted tendencies and fixations and ideas, some of which are hard to accept, some of which you've justified, you know, very passionately, with very good reason and defense, you know, like a lawyer, you know, why you behave this way and why this is your outlook and why this is your opinion about this and that and this person and these people and this concept and this way of living and things like that. So with that in mind, let's meditate. Let's not do a review this week, as we've done one pretty recently. I'm assuming a lot of you have done this before with us. If you haven't, Nick's our producer. Nick, if you can, in the chat, can you maybe post where they can find a review of the techniques on YouTube, like which YouTube video has the most recent or a recent review of the basic technique, and I'll share that. I'll read that and share that with you. But let's first sit in our posture on the floor or in a chair. Usually we get our hips in line or above with our knee or above our knees, and relax our body, but relaxing it with a supple alertness, a supple erectness. You know, that's, remember that analogy. It's a very good one, of the guitar string. Too slack or too tight, there's no tone, just enough tension, and the vibrations of the music can make a very clear, sometimes very pleasant tone. Let's start with the breath and just focus on where your breath is moving, where it goes in and out of the you know, where the nostrils meet the upper lip. If you can't breathe through your nose for whatever reason, you can breathe through your mouth. But if you can breathe through your nose, then try it. And just focus on that place. And when you become aware that your mind has moved to another focal point, just use that awareness to bring your mind and your attention and your focus back to the breath moving in and out. That's it. All you have to do. I'm going to time us. Okay. become aware of the fact that you're thinking of something and your focus has moved off the attention on the breath and the place and where the breath is. Just become aware of the fact that the mind has moved there and the thought has gone somewhere else, and bring it back, the focus and the intent back to that place, and focus on the breath. Or, of course, you can visualize that thought as if it is a cloud that has arisen in this limitless, infinite, expansive, placid, calm, clear blue sky, stainless blue sky. It has arisen and it dissolves back from where it came without leaving a trace. And that sky is our mind, the sky-like, representing the sky-like nature of our mind, which is our true ultimate nature, Buddha nature, if you will. Back to the breath. Good. Okay. Take comfort in the fact that we know, like if you have a glass and you scoop up water from a river, right? That's muddy. And you settle that glass, and the water inside the glass becomes still. The sediment from the mud settles down into the bottom, leaving the clarity of the water in the glass. Know that that's this clarity of mind and this calm, this limitless, spacious nature of mind, that is always there. When we take the time, to apply this practice and work with our mind this way, we always have the ability to access it. That's our true nature, and that's always there. We have to, really recognize that fact and accept it. It's not a universal truth that every time we sit down and meditate, our anger is there. It may come up sometimes when you meditate, but that's certainly not, when you truly settle the mind and rest, it's not your jealousy or your this or that will always eventually be the baseline of your mind. It's not, it's this, this sky-like nature, this luminous clarity. I have to remember that. Victoria has prepared some words for you, and I will say one thing. Those of you who need a review, go to the YouTube Michael Imperioli Meditation 101, Meditation 103, Session 45. That's the most recent detailed review of the practice. Meditation 103, Session 45. Okay. If you go in the Q&A, what is that? The chat on the toolbar, the chat button, you'll see the link. Okay. Thank you, Nick.
So I don't know if I am really the right person to address it, but I would like to speak a little bit. There are great teachers who really we should study. We should attend their teachings, attend retreats with them. But from the little bit that I understand of this, I'd like to just touch upon how to integrate our practice into life. That's always kind of the thing that we're always asking ourselves, why do we practice? And then when we achieve the level of when we understand why we practice, which means that we understand the difference between the relative mind being settled and paused when thoughts are not devouring us, when we're not thrown out of our state of awareness into just this churning of exterior kinds of mindlessness. But if we have sat in meditation and we can finally start to understand in the moment of shamatha, we can start to distinguish, here's the luminosity of mind, the space of bare awareness. And here's a thought churning relative kind of mind that continues to churn out thoughts. But we've sat in the time of meditation on the cushion, and we have seen the difference and the quality of energy where the mind is watching this thought churning and can kind of stay on the side of observing and resting in its own nature, rather than just this, what we call the ordinary mind, the always being distracted, always being hijacked by these exterior kinds of churnings of thoughts. Both are our mind's nature. It's not to say that one is bad, it's wrong, it's this is this. It's mind's nature on a relative level to be distracted, to be churning out, to be constantly engaged. But it is also our mind's nature, and it's actually the basis. It is what we call mind's nature, is that luminous space within which all that churning and hijacking takes place. So I saw a beautiful little teaching with Mingyur Rinpoche, and he took his thumb and he said, okay, this is a candle, this is the mind. And the candle can light all these objects in the room, right? And then the mind, when it's kind of a childish mind, hasn't meditated, doesn't know anything about practice, only looks at the things that the candle lights up in the room. And then, we're saying, this is pretty, this is ugly, this is so. But the mature mind of a practitioner is the candle that sees its own self. And because the candle also illuminates its own self. And then the mind of a practitioner can see the background of this churning of the objects being illuminated in the room, but is really not focused in this kind of what is called in Buddhism often the monkey mind of the senses, and is not jumping to look out here, out there, but is looking at itself and can hold itself. In the meantime, it can also kind of hold all this background noise of watching the objects, but not really being hijacked by them. Because watching objects, seeing objects illuminated by the flame of the mind, often creates this other layer. What's possible when the objects are illuminated within the space of the mind, within its luminosity, and by its light, is that we forget what really lights up the objects, what lights up the room. We forget about all of that, and right away we're like into this Disneyland. I need to go on this ride, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to run here. And a lot of it is, of course, not just being distracted, but being distracted also creates all these other kinds of things like running toward, running away, and being very, very exhausted at the end of the day. So this secondary mind that can only happen on the basis of this luminosity, of this lighting up and awareness of all these, Disneyland rides. The mind that just goes off into the rides and is unaware of what it means, just bare luminosity, bare cognizant, space of cognizance. That mind is where karma is churned, and suffering really is produced and is experienced. How? Very simple, when we see an object, it's not just this neutral engagement. Right away we say, we like this object, the liking goes to, I need this object. The next minute you might be taking that object in some kind of a improper, incorrect way. And the desire, the moment we go from this object, the moment we go, I need this object, I want this thing, is where karma is generated, where activity is generated, where speech is generated, and that's where the suffering is generated. For example, we have a difficult person. The difficult person walks into the room, and right away, our mind goes from this difficult person walked into the room, I hate this person, I wish they were like this and like this, I wish that I was never around them. And that's where karma is generated. It's generated as soon as we acknowledge the object. The label is generated in our mind, and with that label, an emotion is always generated, and emotion goes stronger and stronger until it becomes an affliction. That's where karma is generated. Whereas the mind of a practitioner who has experienced in his sitting meditation sessions that relative mind is like this thought churning factory that's never turned off. It's like being in a room with endless TVs in which concepts of the self and of the world of others exist. And a practitioner knows that this is the room we can enter or we don't have to enter. A practitioner actually has experienced the space of in practice, the space of awareness where we don't need to be caught up in this TV room, where the minute we see someone, we're already like a channel and reruns are initiated, and we keep saying the same thing to ourselves. And each time we say it, the habit, the afflictive emotion grows stronger and stronger and stronger. And suddenly it's like, we're watching our days, we're analyzing our day. So we were in the presence of somebody difficult who came in. But what actually happened is not just that that person came in, but that we got caught and trapped into this whole TV churning thing of, I hate this person, I wish they weren't like this, why didn't they smile to me, why they didn't give me candy that time, why didn't they acknowledge me, why didn't they, give me a promotion, why didn't they smile at me, why they didn't, all these kinds of things. And it's not the person, it's that our judgment that turns into emotion and then turns into affliction, and suddenly hours go by and we have been drained and burnt by this affliction, which started as a judgment, turned into affliction, and consumed us on fire for hours and hours and hours. This is where the being tired, this is where the being drained, this is where being exhausted and just kind of like wasted our precious human life happens. And that's where karma is also generated. Each time we go to the subway as New Yorkers and we say, I hate that subway. Next time we go into the subway, we say, I hate that subway. It's even stronger. And all we do is pay attention to all the negative things. But as practitioners, we actually know that this I hate the subway is just a choice, right? It's one of these random choices because it's always a selection. It's always a selection in view of the mood, of the, of the triggers, of the things that happen to us personally, to our ego. We could go into the subway and also, instead of going, I hate this, and then notice the candy wrappers, or we don't have a seat, or I don't like that guy, and the mind just getting hijacked into that whole narrative. We could also sit down and say, wow, this is amazing. I am sitting, I am doing absolutely nothing, making zero effort, but this pathways of these train cars that are rushing me underground, which is in itself a mind-boggling thing. And I'm rushed through these underground pathways in this lit up thing where I can just sit and do nothing, and then suddenly bang, and magically I am there where I need to be 15 minutes later, on the other side of town. It is so amazing. So that's how we as practitioners, we know that, our attitudes are not things out there that are real and solidified, that are like that. We know that these are just our mental attitudes, and they're selective. And also as practitioners, we also know, because in practice we have two things that we do. We watch our thoughts come and go. We know the arisings, because that's just, the productivity, the production, that happens in our mind. And the second thing that we do, but as practitioners, we can sit and watch and hold our seat, not run out after every thought, not get hijacked by every thought. The second thing that we do in practice is that we also then ask ourselves, well, where is this emotion? What is this I? What is this feeling? What is this anger? And this component of our meditation is called Vipassana, the analytical meditation. We realized it's nothing like a chair that I can point to in the room, the I. When we point this way, we're just pointing to our body, but where is that I in the body? Is it in my voice? Is it in my head? Is it in my, activity? Is it in my, hairdo? Is it in my clothes, et cetera, et cetera, So as practitioners, we understand multiple things on multiple layers. Through analytical meditation, we get to some kind of a point where we understand that this sense of I, or the sense of other, or the sense of this thing out there are just conglomerates of thoughts. They're just circumstances and opinions and judgments and feelings and, emotions triggered in such and such a way. These are not really things in themselves, because that person that I find my difficult person can be the most wonderful person on the planet. Often we hold those kinds of stupid attitudes toward our parents, and before our parents walk into the room, we're already going, oh my God, I have to meet my mother, I hate her, and all the stuff starts to be triggered, and we're caught in this. And by the time our mother walks into the room, we're just like swimming in this negativity that truly all it does is exhausts us. But we have to become aware of the place of where all this exhaustion and these triggers actually happen. So as meditators, how do we integrate? How do we bring this mind that can watch our own thoughts, can watch our own attitudes, and know that every thought, and by the way, thoughts are happening all the time, even when we're asleep. I mean, we're never without this kind of churning. And each thought, as meditators, we also know that each thought has emotions. Some of them are very, very subtle. They're like background noise, background TVs. And some of them are much more strong, more triggered, because we've repeated this negative attitude towards something, or the desiring attitude of something. We've repeated so many times that those are the more pronounced things. And so as meditators, we become aware of it, and so we can let go or simply watch things arising and things dissipating. That's what we do in meditation. We bring that meditation so that we're not always dividing our periods into sitting and being aware and then jumping into samsara like a crazy train and going off and coming back home exhausted, not really understanding what happened, like the bomb exploded, but we don't know who threw it on us. As meditators, we know we throw the bomb 1,000,000 times a day, because every time we're exhausted, it's something that we did. We got triggered. We set ourselves on fire by first, the label, then the emotion, then the really strong reaction. Because when the emotion goes from I don't like this to I hate this, the fire is set. And then we're hijacked by this churning for hours and hours and hours. At the end of the day, we come home and it's like horrendous. And it's with negative things and with, all emotions are afflictions, therefore negative things. It could be hate, it could be desire. All day long, I go out and chase a pleasure, right? And I come home and I'm so dissatisfied because this greatest restaurant I went to, and I spent so much money and I stood in line. I went to dinner not even with people I love, but with just some, people that I thought were important. I blabbed and made small talk. I paid a lot of money, and at the end, the food didn't taste how I expected to taste. So I'm out of time, I'm out of money, I stood in line, I hated this whole thing. I go home and I'm thinking, I chased this pleasure, this restaurant, for hours and hours and hours, and what did I get out of it? Just this, like less money, less time, less satisfaction, etc., etc. So as practitioners, we understand it. So we're not chasing and we're not pushing, because this is what creates karma. This is what, and I mean, a samsara creates karma, creates samsara, and that's another word for suffering. We've created our own suffering by chasing after pleasure and by pushing away pain. Because whenever we meet difficulties, right away we're triggered into, I hate this, I don't want this, I wish it was blah, 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 etc., etc. So as practitioners, first of all, we have to always understand we're here in samsara, we're not in a resort, okay? The 4 sufferings that we recite every time at the end of class is birth, old age, sickness, and death, right? We have all 4 of these, each one of us, with money, without money, we all have that. So we're all suffering those 4 factors, right? But we're suffering them because we live in ignorance and because we're not clear that in samsara, change will constantly happen. We will lose certain things, situations will change, we are connected through interdependence to difficult things, and so we so often create so much more pain by confusing pleasure for happiness, and by not being able to deal and accept the difficult situations will always and indefinitely arise. Our body will change, it'll get wrinkled, it'll get broken. Our new car is going to get scratched, it's going to get old and shabby, or someone will steal it and scratch it. Our pleasant people may move to another town, and our next set of neighbors may be what we consider difficult people who don't smile, who don't greet, who don't this, who don't that. And if we don't bring practice on mindfulness, this being able to watch thoughts, basically, what are we doing? We are watching our own mind. It's okay for thoughts to arise. Where the difficulty arises and where we set ourselves on fire is if we go deeper into it and allow emotions of pushing away unpleasant things and desiring and seeking the pleasant things. That's where suffering arises. And that's where we must practice. And then we must bring the practice. In other words, for practice is just mindfulness. And mindfulness is just memory. What are we supposed to remember? We're supposed to remember that a part of us is this light of the candle, without which nothing is experienced. If there is no light, there is no object of experience. We cannot experience anything. And then we have to remember not to get hijacked by an object being lit up in our mind, not being judgmental, and not from judgment going into a direct affliction, going from, oh, I don't like this thing, oh, I hate this thing, and now being set on fire. Remembering it's not others who set us on fire, it's we set ourselves on fire by being undisciplined, by being silly, by pursuing and wasting human precious existence, by standing online to that it restaurant, by not being able to tolerate difficult people. And I want to read a little thing. This is a great book I'm reading. Was given to me by a friend, Daniel Atkin, who runs Wisdom Publications. And this is a book.
Meditation for Modern Madness by
Dzogchen Rinpoche.
Rinpoche.
Yeah, and read the back of it. The back of it says, you are already enlightened, okay? So what that means is that every time you turn mind from outward, being lost outward, where burning and all this stuff happens, to inward, and being okay with what arises. Like remembering we're in samsara. We're not supposed to be flooded by pleasure day and night, because that's not what samsara is about, and pleasure is not the same as happiness. Being aware and staying in the awareness of bare awareness of the light of the candle, spending more time in that open spaciousness, as to the point of where when things do arise, especially difficult things, we can tolerate them, we can be with them, we don't have to push them, we can abide with them side by side. We will have something that can be called happiness, because happiness and wisdom are two coins of the same thing. Happiness and compassion, wisdom and compassion are the same thing, because when our mind is spacious and we can tolerate difficult things and difficult people and difficult events, we can turn around. It makes our heart very strong. And when we're not driven and consumed and guided and forced, hijacked by negativity, by judgment, by negativity, and this imagined sense of I that gives us like this stupid thought that, well, these are my thoughts. when I said I hate him, I'm right, because that person is truly so you know, when we go into this childish mind with this I, and these are my opinions, and my opinions are right, and I know how things truly are. If we kind of let go of that childish, silly 3-year-old mind, and we can stay just in the space of luminosity, because really wisdom has to do with abiding in the space of where everything is just soft, where things can come and go, and we have the patience and the wisdom, you know, to have things arise and watch them dissipate. You know, we can have something like compassion, we can have something like happiness for ourselves. And what I wanted to read is from chapter 19 on acceptance. And it's about, well, let me read the whole paragraph. We all get stressed by other people, and that is the nature of samsara. We just need to relax and learn to accommodate people. When you are happy, notice it and enjoy it. When you are sad, notice it and accept it. Don't try to change these feelings, or your mind will become your master. You will keep following and trying to either change, reject, or adjust your circumstances. The intellectual mind is all about drama and stories, and we are usually dominated with these thoughts. We think we can handle ourselves, but we can't, and it's disastrous when we try. So don't get sucked into this thing. I am the master of the universe. All of it is just so stupid. It's like that habitual thing when we check our phone every 3 seconds. In our mind, we think, I'm checking the phone. This is my decision. I decided to do it. We go on the phone, we see some celebrity, we go, I want her breasts, I want her figure, I want her dress, I want her smile. And suddenly we're like shopping and doing this and being unhappy about who we are and unaccepting, etc., etc. And where is this sense of autonomy? What's this I? Am looking at my phone. Actually, it's just like a series of triggers. We're just being triggered by habitual tendencies, by habitual stupidity, by habitual afflictions. I want this, I need this, I want to replicate, I want to compare, I want to have a butt like this, I want to have a smile like this, I want to have a house. I mean, these are not really our thoughts. There is no autonomy whatsoever. Just check your day and find where the afflictions are, where the source of exhaustion is. This source of exhaustion of going on an automatic pilot, of constantly being hooked to this like space, this market, you know, the celebrity is selling her products, you know, and we're thinking, well, it's my autonomy that I want to look like this, I want to be like this, I want to have that person's life. Why not be happy and try to have your own life? Not try to find your own autonomy. Stop buying stuff, stop being compulsive, stop checking the phone, stop checking the things, stop, you know, take time and turn from outward, turn to inward. And when you, the minute you turn to inward, and there's 4 foundations, you know, the 4 foundations, the very basic kind of things. Check your body. Is your body okay? Are you breathing okay? Is your heart in a reasonable place? Or are you like contorted, tense, weird, desiring, craving? You know, check your body, go back to your breath, just as we do in meditation. Check your emotions. Are they craving? Are they pushing? You can't tolerate this little thing that's happening to you right now. Are your emotions okay? Leave emotions in emotions. You have like a little moment of difficulty arise, leave it. Don't make it bigger. Don't set yourself on fire. Don't go from I don't like this to I hate this. Don't go from this is nice to I need more to desire. Leave emotions in emotions. Emotions will always accompany thoughts. And that's the next number 3. Check your mind, check your thoughts. Do you have awareness of the thoughts that are happening? Are you like the ocean with little waves that always subside back into the ocean? Or are you like hijacked and out there, getting crazy, getting churning, getting spent, checking, buying, making plans, doing, check your mind. Are you depriving yourself of your freedoms, of your peace, of your space, of your autonomy? And the third and the fourth and the, one of the, they all go together. And the fourth is, it's called, mindfulness of phenomena. What does that really mean? That really means like bring the view to mind, uh, have mindfulness, have memory, dramba, remember the whole thing of I is a product, a byproduct of the society I live in, of the trans and things. There is no autonomous I. There's nothing like that. The only autonomy that we have is when our mind is resting in peace and watching activity, like watching things on the screen, but not getting into the movie and getting triggered by all this kinds of stuff, and the same applies to how things exist, how others exist, uh, understand that we live in the world of our projections, and we shouldn't impose them on others, on the world. We should ease, take it easy with the judgments, take it easy with the reactions, take it easy with the emotions, take it easy with the labels, and allow this open space, allow things to arise, let them come and let them go. And that's basically practice. If you can remind yourself of let it come, let it go, and stay in your mind, bring the practice from the cushion into all of your activities, all of it. Then you can go to the toilet and still meditate. You could do anything and still be mindful. You can, engage in anything and maintain awareness.
I have a question about going back to that example of the restaurant. What if, you plan this out and you invite your friends and you wait online and it's a wonderful experience and it lives up and or exceeds your expectations, and how through the lens of practice that experience,
Yeah.
how does practice
So through the lens
inform
of
that?
experience is you have pleasure, enjoy it, but don't attach to it. Don't create another churning narrative. I need more. I got to get everybody here. It was so successful. I did such a great thing, and etc., etc., etc. You have this experience. Be grateful. Be grateful you have friends. You had time that you could spend with them meaningfully in a meaningful conversation. Enjoy, great food that somebody made, realize the interconnectedness. You were fed because of someone else's kindness, and now you gave also some generosity came from you to others whom you invited. You all together enjoyed this beautiful evening conversation, mental presence, enjoyment of the food mindfully, but you're not fixating on it. You're not saying, I got to be here every day. I must have this. I got to post this thing immediately because this was like the most amazing thing. And everybody has to see that I was in this IT restaurant. Be mindful, and
Thank you. We'll go to the questions. The Q&A button on the toolbar is where you can ask questions.
I just wanted to add, just pay attention to grasping, whether it's, that rejection or attachment. The grasping has kind of three modalities. We grasp through desire, we reject through hatred, and then there's like this, I don't care about it, like somebody's dying on the street, but I'm rushing to my restaurant appointment. I don't care about it. It's stupidity, the ignorance. Those are the three basic afflictive emotions that constantly churn us. We're in one of these three states most of the time, unless we have awareness.
What internal techniques in meditation do you believe contribute to our awareness during everyday conversations and learning? Could you explain the mechanisms behind how meditation cultivates this heightened sense of presence and attentiveness? I wonder that while maintaining a clear mind/narrative, that we might miss vital points or thoughts that should be held and observed for a while before letting go, like purposely seeing the next puzzle piece to whatever the initial thought is. I'm not sure why you wonder why maintaining a clear mind would lend itself to missing a vital point. It seems like the opposite, right? Maintaining a clear mind allows the vital points to have to be in clear focus. So I'm not sure why you feel that that would be a hindrance. But you say internal techniques of meditation contribute to our awareness during everyday conversations and learning. Meditation is working with your mind. It's looking at your own mind, seeing what your mind is doing. So if you bring that kind of attention and focus to an everyday conversation, right? There's a different presence that comes into this experience and exchange that normally may not happen because of your, we were speaking about before, habitual patterns, habitual ways of hearing. We don't even, when we meet someone, be it for the first time or someone you've seen many times, we automatically make assumptions based on what they're wearing, how they comb their hair, how old they are, if how much they weigh, what kind of shape they're in, what kind of clothes. Like our mind is like this, super fast computer. The thing is, it's with a computer, at least, is kind of a cold, has a certain, probably not as biased as what we have, because our bias is based on our experiences and our own mind and what we've been through, and we don't even know how much that happens. I love what I love very much when I have an experience and I meet somebody and I have a judgment about them, and my judgment turns out to be absolutely wrong. I love that because it reminds me that we don't know, we don't know everything. I mean, one time we had a we used to have a piano at the bar that Victoria owned, and we moved it to our house. The piano had to be carried up to the fourth floor of this building, and there were very long stairwells. And we had to hire piano movers, and it could only be brought up by hand. It wasn't able to be brought. There was no elevator. They weren't able to bring it up with a crane or pulley. Take the legs off and carry this. And they were big Russian guys from Brooklyn, very muscular and strong. So you make a judgment about, oh, look at these guys. This is what they do. They carry heavy things. They're big guys, muscle-bound guys. You make an assumption maybe they're not too bright because this is what they have to do. Well, they carry this thing all the way up to the top. They screw the legs in, and one of the guys sits down and starts playing Tchaikovsky, which was, just incredible. Not only did he carry and lift the piano, he was able to play it expertly. So having a presence and an openness, in that quote that I read earlier, that openness to experience allows something else to happen. That's not just based on all this regurgitated, habitual, ingrained reflex. And I think that makes all the difference in our, that's a real possibility of change in our experience and in our world and in our life. Would you like to contribute to that?
Just really, really quickly, awareness and wisdom. Well, it's the same thing. They're different words for the same thing. When something comes from awareness, it's usually wisdom. It's not the blabby intellectual mind. We have to be really, really clear about that. Clarity is not what the next clever thing I'm going to say in conversation. And I'm not judging in any way in response to your question. I'm saying that awareness is knowing the next thing I'm going to say out of my listening and this openness, because awareness is an openness and ability to just be cognizant of what's happening. Awareness is something that can tell you, am I trying to just be clever and impress someone? Is my ego triggered in? Or am I really listening and taking in? And the next thing that comes is going to be somehow stimulated by something meaningful and compassionate without ego. When the ego is relaxed, and it doesn't happen automatically that we relax our cleverness, we relax our ego, we relax our eagerness to impress. We don't have to hold thoughts in mind. Thoughts is a wrong, or concepts is the wrong way of thinking, even what analytical thinking is. What analytical thinking is like using the mind to analyze that portion of the relative mind, so to say. When we say, where is the I? Where is the he? This conglomerate, and we break down these conceptual kind of barriers to find there's nothing substantial there. There's nothing to point to there. The vastness of the mind, mine and his, is ungraspable. And that's what awareness is. It's not to be confused with intellectual regurgitation, and the next, there are no important and less important kind of intellectual objects. We study a lot in Buddhism, but that study is almost like fuel for experience. Unless we take that study and turn it into experience, direct experience of this open space of awareness, mine and his. That person I call bad, and this and this and this, has the same Buddha nature like I do. We're enlightened already, like the back of the cover said. If we don't take that fuel of intellectual learning and turn it into this experience where our heart is activated, where we're open to them being enlightened and us being, and all sentient beings enlightened, then it just becomes kind of a hubris where we think we're cleverer than somebody else. So just to be very careful and being aware that awareness is not holding this intellectual baggage. That's just like more of the same ego crap. So being super, super careful. Wisdom is not what is carried on 20 elephants like our academics think. Lots of our academics who are super learned beings could also be some of the worst human beings on this planet. So, knowing a lot of things, reading libraries of books does not turn us into great human beings. In Buddhism, the signs to watch for are kindness, being able to suspend your judgment, an ability of dealing with difficult people and difficult situations, uh, 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 being a listener, giving openness. That's more important than like holding on to what's precious to us as our next kind of an intellectual thought. Being extremely aware that this whole, my next, important thought is also my ego. It's my selection. It's what button I pressed on, or I should rather say, what pressed on my ego, what I consider to be important, not confusing, conceptual mind with wisdom. Very, could be very, very misleading and dangerous territory.
Also, it's not, speaking again to your point, I wonder, while maintaining a clear mind narrative, that we might miss vital points or thoughts that should be held and observed. Awareness is not some spaced out, blissed out kind of, place where you're numb and, removed from what's going on around you. That's not what we're working on either, That's a bit of a misconception about meditation, and some people, there may be even some kind of meditative practices that go that way or something like that, but this is not what we're taught or what we're talking about. It's quite the opposite, So thank you for that question. The next question: what are your thoughts on helping those close to you as you see them struggle through life, children's friends, etc.? When you see clarity and they don't, it can be so frustrating. Well, that's where, wisdom can come in. It can be frustrating, but it could also be, you can also be helpful, You know, you can be a good friend, you can be a better parent if you have some clarity. You certainly can't assume that they should, do what you say or know what you know, or, uh, there's that famous serenity prayer: grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference between what you can change and what you can't. That's where it kind of gets tricky. But, you know, that kind of awareness can certainly help you be less selfish, so you can actually be more helpful and show up for them, when maybe, we could say, well, you know, I'm busy and I have to work, or I have to prepare this, and I don't want to, they'll be okay and someone else is there. But, well, and you can go beyond your own kind of self-fixation and be there for somebody and make time for them, because, you're seeing it a little bit from a bigger point of view, not just your own needs. I think the more we work with our own minds, the better, more efficient we can be towards being helpful to those around us. And you always have to remember, why we come to the Dharma. We're deluded beings. We see the world from a very limited, subjective point of view, from these very limited five senses or six senses. If you think about, the mind itself, how we perceive things is very limited and very subjective and very from point of view. So we always have to remember that, and really take that to heart, that we don't know everything, and just we have to have humility, and generosity, and rely on some of those qualities rather than just thinking we know what's better. Generosity without strings, um, giving without expectations of return. It's not a giving and generosity as a non-transactional thing, you know. Because then, if you're being generous with an expectation of a certain payback, quid pro quo, that's not really generosity. That's a deal. It might be a good deal, it might be a fair deal, but it's not necessarily virtuous, right? Or creating some kind of merit, because there's a self-interest. Would you like to expand on that?
Just as Michael said, do give without expectation. That's rule number one for exterior help. And there's always also interior help. That is when we meditate to remove obstacles from others. Remember, as practitioners, we have other means, other methods. Tonglen is one of these tremendous kinds of methods. We meditate by taking the dark, breathing in the dark, dissolving in our heart, sending the light back. There is also secret, because everything is outer, inner, and secret. And secret is always remembering, all sentient beings' true nature is enlightenment. Having also faith that even when others plunder in whatever way we think they plunder, ultimately, karma is like a course corrector. They will still wind up, and ultimately will come to enlightenment and already have an enlightened nature. It's just about waking up to it from this kind of dream of this churning on the outward level. So, outer, as Michael said, give, do without expectation. That is true love, true compassion, and wisdom. There's no compassion without wisdom. There's no true generosity without wisdom. So do like that. And then, of course, the inner, where you as a practitioner can affect also the outcomes by creating certain things to remove obstacles. And then the secret is, taking refuge in knowing that our nature is enlightened. And even though temporarily someone may appear as they're in a very wrong place, their ultimate nature is always Buddhahood, as is yours.
Okay. Any last minute questions? Okay. We will close by dedicating the merit, any merit that may have been generated by today's session for the benefit of all beings by saying our dedication prayer. May all beings have had, by this merit, may all beings attain the state of enlightenment, conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And thank you to
Nick.
Our producer, Nick Solidio, without whom this class would not be possible. And we'll see you next time.